It's an interesting and often misunderstood topic. Why are so many older men choosing to stay single? Could it be related to their past relationships, or is there something else at play that women may not fully understand? Let me share a story that might shift how you think about this. As men get older, many decide to remain single. Some even when they've had long, fulfilling marriages or relationships in the past. But what's really behind this decision? Is it the painful memories of past heartbreaks, the weariness from past struggles, or is there something deeper that drives their choices? Take the story of George, a 72-year-old man who, after a 40-year marriage, found himself single once more after his wife passed. He had been a devoted husband, but over the years the demands of marriage had worn on him. George found that in the time after his wife's death, he began enjoying his independence in ways he hadn't imagined. He was able to do things for himself, traveling alone, pursuing new hobbies, and even building relationships with friends he hadn't had the time for during his marriage. For him, the quiet of single life became a comfort. He wasn't rushing to fill the silence with another relationship because, for the first time, he truly had the space to reflect, grow, and just enjoy his own company. Then there's the story of Ed, 68, who went through a painful divorce late in life. His relationship with his ex-wife had been fraught with miscommunication and unaddressed emotions for years. After the divorce, Ed felt a sense of relief, though he didn't expect it. He had long neglected his own desires, aspirations, and identity in the name of compromise. But after becoming single again, he realized that he had rediscovered a part of himself that had been lost. The idea of dating again seemed daunting, especially after the emotional toll of his marriage and divorce. What had once felt like a necessity now felt like a burden. For many men like George and Ed, staying single isn't a choice of rejection or resentment. It's a decision driven by self-preservation, freedom, and peace. It's about reflecting on the relationships that shaped them, and finding the courage to move forward in a way that suits them best in their later years. Many older men find that they've learned to prioritize their personal well-being over the pressure to be in a relationship. For women, this may be a hard reality to understand. Some may feel rejected or wonder if there's something wrong with them. But in many cases, it's not about the women in their lives at all. It's about these men needing time to rediscover themselves. It's about choosing contentment and independence over the complexity of relationships they once thought they needed. The decision for many older men to stay single isn't about denying love or closeness. It's about recognizing that at this stage of life, what matters most is living authentically, without the need for validation or external expectations. It's a quiet, personal journey of self-awareness and freedom. So the next time you wonder why some older men choose to remain single, remember, it's not about women, relationships, or a lack of love. It's about choosing to prioritize one's own peace, growth, and newfound independence. Reason 1. Disappointment from past relationships. George's story is all too familiar for many older men. After 2 failed marriages, he's come to a place where the thought of marriage or starting a new relationship just doesn't hold the appeal it once did. His first marriage, lasting 15 years, ended in heartbreak, and despite believing in second chances, his second marriage ended after just 7 years. The emotional scars from those relationships were profound. George gave everything he had to make both marriages work, yet he found that not all women are willing to grow old together in the same way he envisioned. The expectation that marriage would bring enduring companionship faded with each failure. For men like George, these disappointments are not just about the endings, they're about the betrayal of expectations. The idea of companionship in later years, of navigating life's challenges together, starts to feel like an illusion. Many older men, after such emotional pain, opt for solitude because it feels safer than risking another heartbreak. The weight of disappointment from past relationships is not just an emotional burden, but also a reminder of the vulnerability required to trust again. For these men, staying single is often a form of self-preservation, a way to protect themselves from the emotional toll that another failed relationship could bring. Reason 2. Fear of being hurt again. Jack's experience echoes a similar fear. Having been married for over 40 years to his childhood sweetheart Mary, he had experienced a love that was deep and unwavering. However, after her sudden passing, Jack found himself in a place of emotional devastation. Mary had been his entire world, and losing her left a wound that was too deep to heal. Now, years later, Jack has no interest in dating again. To him, the idea of opening his heart to someone else simply isn't worth the risk. The fear of experiencing the same kind of loss again is too overwhelming. Jack's reluctance to start over isn't born from a lack of desire for companionship, it's the fear of vulnerability and heartbreak. Emotional toll of losing someone you love deeply is a pain many older men know well. When you've already had what many consider to be the love of your life, the idea of starting over with someone new can seem unappealing, if not impossible. The scars left by these losses cause many older men to choose solitude. They may still yearn for companionship, but the fear of facing another loss outweighs the hope for new connections. This fear isn't just about the absence of love. It's about avoiding the overwhelming pain of losing someone again. For both George and Jack, the decision to remain single isn't about a lack of desire for companionship or a rejection of love. It's about the weight of their past experiences. The emotional scars of failed relationships and lost loved ones have made the prospect of vulnerability and intimacy feel too risky. These men have lived through the highs and lows of love, and in their later years, they've made the choice to guard their hearts rather than face the potential for more heartbreak. It's a deeply personal decision born of experience, one that reflects both the pain and the wisdom of their years. Reason 3. Enjoying their freedom. Bill's story reflects a growing sentiment among older men: freedom. At 68, Bill has had his fair share of relationships, but it's his time after divorce that truly stands out. Having spent years of his life balancing his passion for fishing and travel with the needs of a partner, Bill felt the weight of constant compromise. His ex-wife often criticized how much time he spent on his hobbies, particularly fishing, which he saw as his escape and a way to recharge. After his divorce, Bill rediscovered a kind of freedom he hadn't realized he was missing. Now, Bill can wake up each day and decide how he wants to spend it, without having to explain his plans or compromise with someone else's desires. Whether it's booking a spontaneous trip or spending an entire week fishing, his life is now his own to control. This sense of autonomy and control over his time and space is incredibly appealing to many older men. They've spent decades negotiating with partners, balancing the needs of their loved ones with their own desires, and after years of doing so, the idea of living on their own terms becomes a powerful, empowering choice. For many older men like Bill, staying single isn't about avoiding relationships, but rather about embracing the freedom to live life as they see fit. They no longer feel obligated to conform to someone else's expectations, and they find joy in pursuing hobbies, interests, and experiences without seeking permission or accommodating another person's preferences. This sense of freedom allows them to reconnect with themselves and rediscover what truly brings them happiness. Reason 4. They want to avoid compromising. Walter's story speaks to a common concern for many older men: the desire to avoid compromising their personal space and routine. At 75, Walter had spent years building a life that was comfortable and uniquely his own. His home, decorated with sentimental items, reflected his personality and his preferences. When he moved in with his girlfriend, however, things changed. She wanted to redecorate, alter the layout, and shift the dynamics of their home, and that didn't sit well with Walter. He found the constant disagreements and changes to be overwhelming and, ultimately, realized that he was not willing to give up the life he had carefully curated for years. For many older men, their home and routine are integral to their sense of self. They've spent a lifetime establishing these comfort zones, and the thought of disrupting them, whether it's changing the decor, adapting their daily habits, or compromising on personal space, can feel like a loss of control. After years of adjusting to the needs of others, they often reach a point where they no longer want to negotiate or alter their lifestyle for someone else. The peace and comfort they find in their routine are too valuable to trade for the challenges of blending two lives together. This desire to avoid compromise is a defining factor for many older men choosing to remain single. They've reached a stage in life where the stability of their routines, their home, and their personal happiness take precedence over the potential of a relationship. While they may still long for companionship, the sacrifices often required in relationships, such as adjusting to another person's needs or preferences, become less appealing. For men like Walter, maintaining their independence and preserving their established life is simply more important than the prospect of adjusting for another person. Together, both Bill and Walter's stories highlight a common theme among older men who choose to remain single: the desire for autonomy, freedom, and control over their lives. After years of compromise and change, many find peace in embracing their independence and enjoying their routines and passions, without the added complexities that relationships may bring. Reason 5. Women are often not interested. Ted's story at 70 highlights a painful but common reality for many older men: the shift in romantic dynamics as they age. Throughout his younger years, Ted was confident, charismatic, and easily connected with women at social events. However, as he entered his 60s and 70s, he started to notice something troubling. Women his age seemed less interested in him, and younger women didn't even notice him at all. At first, Ted brushed it off, thinking it was just a phase or a passing observation. But over time, he couldn't ignore the stark reality. The romantic attention he once took for granted was no longer there. Ted began to feel invisible, and this experience became disheartening. Women who he once had effortless conversations with now seemed to gravitate toward younger men, leaving him feeling rejected. He tried to engage with others, but the constant realization that the attraction simply wasn't there wore him down. Eventually, he gave up on the idea of dating altogether. The effort to connect with women who showed little to no interest in him felt futile, and the awkwardness of initiating romantic conversations became a significant deterrent. This shift is common among older men who feel that their romantic value has diminished with age. As the physical signs of aging become more apparent, the attraction that was once there seems to fade away. The desire for younger, more youthful partners often intensifies, leaving older men feeling overlooked and unattractive in comparison. The idea of competing in the dating world, where youth and vitality are highly valued, feels like a losing battle. For many older men like Ted, this sense of being unwanted or invisible can have a deep emotional toll. It becomes easy to question their worth and to feel disconnected from the dating scene altogether. The lack of attention from women, particularly those of their age, leads to feelings of discouragement and even rejection. Over time, they may decide that it's not worth the emotional effort to pursue relationships. The discomfort of not being able to form romantic connections or facing the harsh reality of aging often pushes them toward embracing solitude instead. For some men, like Ted, this loss of romantic interest from women ultimately leads them to focus on other areas of life, such as their hobbies or friendships. They stop actively seeking companionship, because they've come to terms with the idea that romantic connections may no longer be in their future. It's not that they don't desire love, but rather that they've accepted that it is no longer readily available to them, and they've chosen to embrace independence and contentment instead. Ted's experience serves as a reminder of how the natural process of aging can impact relationships, especially for older men who feel left behind in a culture that often celebrates youth. The emotional weight of feeling invisible can lead many older men to abandon the search for love altogether, finding peace in their own company rather than in trying to reclaim something that may no longer feel attainable. Reason 6. The desire for companionship, not romance. Harry, 77, offers a refreshing perspective on relationships in his later years. For much of his life, he had been in long-term romantic relationships and marriages. But now, he finds that his needs have shifted. "I don't need a partner, I need someone to share a cup of coffee with," Harry explains with a warm smile. He values the companionship of women, but not in the traditional sense of romance or commitment. Instead, he treasures simple moments of connection, shared conversations, experiences, and quiet time together. For Harry, the desire for companionship doesn't have to involve the complexities of romantic love. He enjoys spending time with women but doesn't feel the need to seek marriage or romance again. Instead, what he craves most are deep, platonic friendships where mutual respect and understanding create an emotional bond that's fulfilling. "I'm not looking for someone to marry again," he says. "I just want someone to enjoy a walk with, or have a quiet chat over a cup of tea." This shift in priorities is something many older men experience. While romantic love may fade or feel less necessary, the need for human connection, specifically the connection found in meaningful friendships, remains. These men have lived through the highs and lows of romantic relationships, and as they age, they realize that the deep companionship they truly desire doesn't always come with the emotional complexities of romance. Harry, for example, finds that sharing life's small joys with a good friend is more rewarding than the intensity of romantic gestures. For many older men, after years of experiencing the trials of marriage, divorce, or widowhood, the idea of navigating the pressures of romantic relationships no longer holds the same appeal. They've come to appreciate the emotional stability and fulfillment that comes from companionship without the drama or unpredictability of romance. Harry puts it simply, "Romance is nice, but I'd rather have someone who can share a laugh and understand the little things in life." This perspective allows for emotional intimacy and genuine connection, free from the expectations and demands of traditional relationships. At a certain stage in life, the effort that dating requires may feel like too much compared to the quiet joy that comes from platonic friendships. Older men like Harry find that the authenticity of these relationships, without the need for pretense, brings a deep sense of satisfaction. They value the simple pleasure of having someone to talk to, share experiences with, and support each other through life's ups and downs. For these men, the joy of companionship is more fulfilling than the fleeting nature of romance. So there you have it, 6 reasons why many older men choose to stay single. Whether it's the scars of past relationships, the fear of getting hurt again, or simply the freedom of living independently, each man has his own unique path. What's most important is finding what brings happiness and fulfillment at this stage of life. For some, that's embracing the peace of solitude, while for others, it's finding joy in the companionship of close friends, without the complications of romantic love. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with these reasons or have any of your own? Let me know in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.